Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 17th of July, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index. Dollar climbing quite significantly over the last 24 hours, back into bullish short-term mode here, and on the medium-term chart doesn't have that much work to do. So suddenly we see a turnaround. This long-term dollar trend still dominates. Basically, we do see the dollar having its periods of short-term weakness, but then it comes back to that longer term. And the dollar is a safe haven in an uncertain world. And if we look at the Eurodollar, it's not quite bearish yet, and then it just turns bearish through the clouds. So we are bearish on the short-term chart. Against the yen, the dollar actually isn't managing to break higher, the yen being the safer haven still. And then sterling sinking lower against the dollar, hitting 123.87. That's a 27-month low. So we are really seeing some capitulation here for sterling, and we're seeing that just downside target now of 119, which is 3.5% lower. And if we look at sterling against the euro, it's looking pretty weak here as well, where it's sitting at 110.51 with a target below 110 just, so we are heading straight to the target. Not hitting the 27-month lows here, but we are bearish on all three time frames, so it's not looking good for sterling. And against the Swiss franc, 122.45 this morning, so again, just hitting new lows, clearly bearish here with further downside. Looking at Bitcoin, we are below the $10,000 level. We fell through that yesterday. We can see here a big red candle for yesterday. So we have fallen away on sterling, and that means we are bearish on the short-term chart very clearly. No clear downside targets. We did have one hit and two targets to 9,500. That's kind of where we've gone. So we're waiting for the next targets, really. We've got a relief rally target here. If we activate that, then we might see a recovery. But at the moment, it's looking a little bit toppy, Bitcoin. Maybe a double top here. So still very, very speculative. The S&P 500 index was down 1/3% yesterday, but still holding the $3,000 mark. Nasdaq couldn't break the $8,000 point mark on the index, so we are just still struggling to break that 8,000 point mark, but we are looking bullish on the chart, and the Dow also looking bullish as well. The Russell 2000, the broader based index, struggling to make new highs. Last year's high really a long way away from where we are now. Just shows that this run in US equities of late hasn't included the smaller caps. The futures this morning are relatively flat. The S&P future up 0.1% and the Nasdaq E-mini up 0.15%. Just means we're not really seeing any clear direction for which way the US market will open today, so we're saying flat. The UK market down slightly this morning, so fairly flat there. And the mid-caps in the UK, much the same picture, still struggling to break really clearly into bullish territory. The DAX in Germany, again, flat this morning, so we're seeing that very much as a theme, just struggling to break to new highs. And the CAC Quarant is actually in bullish territory, looking a bit stronger than the other markets, even though it's down this morning as well. The Japanese market was little changed, and the Hang Seng and Chinese indices, Hang Seng was down 0.2%, still bearish on all three time frames, and the Chinese Shanghai Composite was also down 0.2%, just struggling to break new highs there. India bucked the trend up 1/3%. Still looking great on the medium and long-term charts with lots of upside targets. And if we look at the S&P Aussie index, we were up here as well by 0.5%, so looking pretty strong there. Brent crude sitting higher this morning at 64.62. It is up, but it fell heavily yesterday, and we're back into clear bearish territory here on Brent. We said yesterday that we felt that oil was running out of steam, and WTI much the same picture, of course, just sinking lower. So we're into that weak part of the year now where we should expect to see falls in crude oil. Gold is sitting at $1,405, so we pulled back a little bit. We've pulled into bearish short-term territory, but the long-term charts still look great with those long-term targets. And silver also just pulling back, as you might expect with gold as well. So we are holding the bullish territory on silver, so it's not looking as bad on the short term. US 10-year yield sitting at 2.1%, just struggling at that level really. and really now waiting direction from the Fed. And if we take a quick look at German bond prices, this is the yield inverted, of course, we are seeing recovery in bond prices in Germany, which does imply that we'll see yields falling further. Taking a look at the individual stocks, this data coming from Thomson Reuters Icon. If you're a private user, Metastock Zenith, the same system, really, really powerful. Looking at the stocks, I'm just using Yahoo Finance here, and we see the world industry indices mostly red yesterday. Taking a quick look at the Dow 30, the best performer in the Dow was Dow Inc. again, up 2.7%. They've had a bit of a resurgence here. We see three steady candles and quite a solid week, so quite looking quite good there. 3M also up 2%, but not enough really to rescue the chart. Banks recovering a little bit. We saw Goldman Sachs up 1.8% and JP Morgan up as well. They'd had a bad day the day before. Looking at the Nasdaq, the best performers in the Nasdaq, JB Hunt Support Services up 5%, so just recovering there, and Semantic also recovering as well. Facebook, little change there, sitting at 203, just holding the $200 mark. And if we look at the worst performers on the Nasdaq, Western Digital down 5.7%, Liberty Global, quite a few stocks down a good few percent yesterday, so it's not all roses for tech stocks at the moment. Looking at the Aussie market, the best performer was Elders Limited. They're up 15%, quite a big jump there, and that's really put them back into clear bullish territory on the medium-term chart. They have underperformed the market this year so far, so still some work to go there. And if we look at the downside, Speedcast International, they were down 6%. Chart looking absolutely dismal there. Looking at the Indian market, the Nifty 50, the best performer is UPL Limited. They're up 3%. Chart looks pretty bad after big falls there. And on the downside, Yes Bank. Yes Bank seemed to be either in the leaders or the laggards board most days, and yesterday they were lagging, and the chart still looks pretty bad. Taking a quick look at Europe this morning, we start with the UK market, and here we see Anglo American, the best performer this morning, up 2.23%. Fabulous chart, just steadily heading up the hill here, just great steady performance. Outperforming the market by 10% so far this year, but really clear cut. Here we see the live prices coming in from Yahoo Finance. Burberry up 1.8% there in the news this morning, pushing much higher this week. So they've had a very good week indeed, breaking to new highs. And then if we look at the downside on the UK market, we've got Frisson down nearly 5%, Johnson Matthey Group down 3%. Although these charts that are underperforming seem to be still the ones that look best on the chart. BP Group looking pretty flat over quite a long period, just tending to be bearish, underperforming the market. The UK midcaps, if we look at Aston Martin at the top of the board, they're up 8.9% this morning. So just starting after a really bad start to their IPO, they just seem to be starting to turn the corner here. So looking quite good there. On the downside, we've got Hochschild Mining down 3.5%, so not looking great there. European stocks this morning, if we take a quick look, we've got ASML in Amsterdam, they're up 2%. Alliance SE, Allianz, they're up 1.1%. Quite a mixed picture here this morning, as we see, and on the downside, we've got Total in Paris, they're down 1.5%. Daimler still struggling that chart, down a further 1.4%, so we are seeing it. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.